They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from the ones you love most. Mine didn't come with screaming or slammed doors. It came in the form of a quiet wedding cancellation, a ring returned without a word, and a smiling Instagram post of my sister wearing the same diamond I thought I'd grow old with. But that's not the whole story. Because 6 years later, I walked into our mother's funeral with a man who made them both freeze like ghosts had returned. I didn't need revenge. My life was the revenge. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. We're excited to connect with all of you, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing content. Now back to the story. I wasn't born into money, but I always believed I'd marry into it. Not in a gold-digging kind of way. I had my own plans, my own career. But love, real love, happened to come with wealth. Or at least I thought it did. Back then, I was 26, working as a marketing consultant and proud of it. My name is Naomi Ellison, and if you'd met me 6 years ago, you'd have said I was the kind of woman who had it all lined up. Career on track, skin glowing, a wardrobe that whispered soft luxury without screaming designer logos. But the thing I prized most wasn't any of that. It was Daniel Wright, my fiancé. Daniel was that kind of tall, charismatic, suit-wearing man who could silence a room just by walking into it. I met him at a corporate seminar. He was the keynote speaker. I was the marketing lead for the event. We ended up talking over post-event wine and tiny hors d'oeuvres. I barely remember what I ate, but I remember his laugh. It was rich, like caramel and confidence. We dated for almost 2 years before he proposed. The ring, platinum band, radiant cut diamond, was perfect. Not because of the size or the price tag, but because I could see myself wearing it for decades, through fights and anniversaries and children. That was the plan. Our plan. I should have known someone else had a different one. Enter my younger sister, Alyssa, the golden child, always the one who got away with skipping curfew, crashing dad's car, forgetting mom's birthday, and still being the favorite. She was the classic combination of beauty and chaos. Men adored her. Women warned each other about her. I loved her, but I also never fully trusted her. Growing up, Alyssa and I were close in the obligatory way sisters are. We shared rooms, clothes, secrets. But deep down, I knew she had a way of taking things that didn't belong to her. Attention, credit, and eventually, Daniel. At first, I didn't notice anything odd. Daniel was friendly with my family, especially with Alyssa. She laughed louder at his jokes than I did, but I told myself she was just being her flirty, silly self. He smiled at her a little too long, but I chalked it up to nerves. I even defended them when my best friend Jade half-jokingly said, "If you ever go missing, I'd check those two first." I laughed. Stupid me. The unraveling started slow. Daniel got busy more often. Our wedding plans kept getting delayed, first because of work, then because his mother had health issues. I tried to be patient, loving, supportive, but there's only so much patience a woman can give before the silence starts to feel like punishment. Then came the night everything shattered. Daniel called me late, said he needed to talk. My stomach dropped. We met at a quiet cafe halfway between his place and mine. He didn't touch his coffee. I didn't touch my tears. "I'm so sorry," he said, "but I can't go through with the wedding. I think I'm in love with someone else." I remember gripping the edge of the table, so hard my knuckles turned white. "Who?" He looked away. "Who, Daniel?" "Alyssa." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stood up, walked out, and deleted every photo of us from my phone before I reached my car. That was the last time I saw him. Or her. For a long time. A week later, Alyssa texted me. "It just happened. I never meant to hurt you. I hope one day you'll understand." I never replied. There are some messages you don't dignify with words. My parents, they were heartbroken. They didn't know what to say. But they also attended Alyssa and Daniel's engagement party 3 months later, smiling like nothing ever happened. They said they didn't want to choose sides. So I made it easy for them. I walked away. From all of them. Starting over wasn't romantic. It wasn't glamorous. It was ugly, lonely and gritty. I moved cities, took a smaller job, rented a studio apartment with a view of a dumpster. But it was mine. The silence that used to feel like punishment became peace. I focused on myself. Therapy, yoga, budgeting. I rebuilt my confidence like a house brick by brick. I stopped checking their socials. I stopped wondering how they were doing. And I made a quiet promise to myself. I won't chase revenge. I'll just build a life so full, so whole, that they'll see what they lost. 2 years later, I met Julian. He wasn't flashy. He didn't come in with a private jet or a tailored three-piece suit. He came in with a leather-bound book, sitting alone at a bookstore cafe. I complimented his choice of author. He complimented my coffee order. We talked for hours. Julian was calm where Daniel was chaotic, grounded where Daniel was grand. He didn't sweep me off my feet. He offered me a place to stand. It wasn't until 6 months in that I learned who Julian really was, CEO of a rising tech company, already profiled in Forbes, and coincidentally, one of Daniel's biggest business competitors. He didn't flaunt his success. He barely mentioned it. And when I told him my story, about Daniel, about Alyssa, about everything, he didn't flinch. He listened. Then he said, "They did you a favor. If they hadn't taken your old life, we wouldn't have met." He proposed in the simplest, most beautiful way. Sunday morning, coffee in hand, bedhead and all. No cameras, no audience, just love. We got married privately, surrounded by a handful of true friends and his close-knit family. My parents weren't invited. Alyssa didn't even know. Until Mom died. When the call came, I didn't cry. I hadn't spoken to my mother in almost 5 years. But grief is strange. It doesn't always come with tears. It can come as a pressure in your chest, a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. Julian offered to come with me to the funeral. I almost said no. But then I remembered who else would be there. And suddenly, I didn't want to walk in alone. The church smelled like old wood and lilies. People murmured, eyes darting toward the doors every time they opened. I wore a black silk dress and heels sharp enough to slice the past in half. Julian walked beside me, his hand warm in mine. We stepped inside, and there she was, Alyssa, in a designer coat, makeup flawless, hand clutched tightly around the arm of a man I almost didn't recognize. Daniel. He had aged. Not badly, but you could see the tension in his jaw, the restlessness in his eyes. He froze when he saw me. Alyssa's smile cracked. For a split second, the entire room held its breath. And then Julian kissed the back of my hand and led me to the front pew. That's when I knew this was the moment they never expected. I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't begging for reconciliation. I was thriving, and I hadn't even said a word yet. Julian's hand stayed in mine through the first hymn, through the prayers, through every tight glance from people who hadn't seen me in years. They stared as if trying to solve a puzzle, one where the missing piece had come back shinier, stronger, unrecognizable. I didn't look at Alyssa. Not really. But I felt her. Her presence itched like a tag inside a dress you can't cut off. She was close enough for me to hear the slight click of her heels when she shifted in her seat. Daniel hadn't moved since we walked in, though I caught him glancing sideways every few minutes, like he still needed proof that I was real. I sat with my head high, legs crossed, face calm. But inside, my mind churned. I remembered my mother's voice, her excuses. "She's your sister. Family forgives." I remembered how she brushed past my heartbreak like it was a spilled cup of tea. Temporary. Cleanable. Forgettable. They all thought I'd go quietly. That I'd stay broken, small. They thought Daniel would be the peak of my life, and Alyssa had won. But I wasn't the same woman they discarded like old clothes. After the service, people started filing out into the churchyard, dabbing their eyes, murmuring condolences. I avoided most of them. The few family members who approached me acted like I was a ghost with too much eyeliner. Then I saw her. Alyssa broke from the crowd, beelining toward me with that rehearsed sad smile I used to fall for. She looked expensive, wrapped in beige cashmere and Chanel perfume, but her eyes flicked to Julian before landing on me. She didn't expect him. Not like that. Tall, devastating in tailored navy, sunglasses still on, wedding band gleaming as he sipped a black coffee like this was just another morning. "Naomi," she said, voice soft like we were still sisters and hadn't been silence and betrayal for 6 years. I raised an eyebrow. "Alyssa." She opened her arms, slightly like she might hug me. I didn't move. Her smile twitched. I didn't know you were coming. I'm sure you didn't. An awkward silence passed. Julian stepped just slightly closer, his presence a shield she couldn't breach. You look amazing, she offered, glancing at my dress, my ring. Her eyes flickered again to Julian. I let the silence do the work for me. Let her stew in it. Then, too casually, she added, Who's your friend? My husband. I said it slowly, precisely, watching her eyes widen like I'd slapped her. Julian extended a polite hand. Julian Wright. Nice to meet you. The name hit like a gunshot in her chest. I could see it. Her pupils contracted. Her breath caught. She knew who he was. Of course she did. Daniel and Julian had been in the same headlines more than once, two rising stars in the same industry, circling each other like lions. She fumbled. Julian Wright as in everything you're thinking, I said, cutting her off. Yes. Julian gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. Alyssa wasn't used to losing footing. She blinked fast, recovering. Wow. That's congratulations. Thanks. We got married a year ago. Small ceremony. Private. No invites, she said, pretending it was a joke. I think you'd understand why. I turned slightly, already done. But then, behind her, Daniel approached. He looked paler than I remembered, his hair cut shorter, his eyes heavier. His voice was barely a murmur when he said, Naomi. I didn't answer. Can we talk? He asked, not looking at Julian. Alyssa tried to interrupt. Daniel, this isn't. But he waved her off. Just a minute. Julian looked at me. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. 1 minute. He walked away, giving me space. Alyssa hovered, reluctant, but I stared her down until she followed him. Daniel and I stood apart from the crowd by a bare tree, old and gnarled like something out of a forgotten storybook. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said. Neither was I. I didn't know you'd gotten married. He sounded almost bitter. I didn't send out a press release. His jaw twitched. Julian Wright. Seriously. I gave a small laugh. You sound jealous. I'm not, he lied. You sure? Because you look like you've just swallowed a lemon. He sighed. I never wanted to hurt you, Naomi. What happened, it was complicated. No, Daniel. It was cruel. You were a coward, and she was a thief. She's your sister. And you were my fiancé. That shut him up. Good. He shifted his weight, glanced back toward the crowd, then returned to me. I think about you sometimes. I tilted my head. Do you? Before or after checking your stock prices? His face hardened. You've changed. I had to. I leaned in slightly. You taught me that. For a moment, the tension felt like it might explode between us. Then I turned and walked away, heels crunching on gravel, not looking back. Julian met me near the car. All good. Better than good. He kissed my temple. You're terrifying when you're calm. I know. At the reception, if you could even call it that, we stayed just long enough to avoid gossip. I gave a short speech that didn't mention my mother's favoritism, didn't name the betrayal, didn't scratch the surface of how I truly felt. It was elegant, cold, controlled. Alyssa gave a speech too. Hers was full of choked sobs and forced sentiment. People clapped politely, but they looked at me when they thought of Grace. Later that evening, as the sky dimmed and guests started leaving, I caught a snippet of conversation near the catering table. Two cousins were whispering. One said, I heard their company's not doing so great. Daniel's. Yeah. Apparently he invested in some terrible startup. Lost millions. She's been selling her bags on consignment. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Karma doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it arrives as whispers in the background, soft but sharp. In the parking lot, Alyssa caught me one last time. Naomi, wait. I turned, tired of her already. She looked desperate now, like her glamour had peeled away, revealing the scared little girl underneath. Can we talk? Just us. No. Please. I miss you. That stopped me. Not because I believed her, but because it was pathetic. You didn't miss me when you were slipping into my dress fittings behind my back, I said. She flinched. It wasn't like that. Really? Then tell me what it was like, Alyssa. Tell me how it felt to smile in my face and stab me in the back. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. That's what I thought. Naomi, I thought you were always going to have it all. You were smarter, more put together. Mom always said you were the one who'd make it. She trailed off, shaking her head. I wanted something for me. You didn't take something for you. You stole something from me. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm sorry. I stood there for a beat, then another. I looked at the girl who used to braid my hair and cry when she had nightmares. I looked at the woman who ruined our family. And then I said, calmly, finally, I forgive you. But I don't trust you. And I don't want you in my life. She gasped. You can't mean that. I can. And I do. I turned and walked away. Julian opened the car door for me, and I slid in without a backward glance. As we pulled away, the church growing smaller behind us, he reached over and took my hand. You okay? He asked again. I stared out the window for a moment, watching the last of the mourners scatter like leaves in the wind. I am now. And I meant it. Not because Alyssa had suffered, not because Daniel's business was crumbling, but because I had finally said everything I'd needed to say. Because I was no longer defined by what they did to me. I had love, real love, not borrowed, not broken, mine, and they would live every day knowing that I didn't just survive them. I surpassed them. The first message came 2 days after the funeral. Alyssa. She didn't call. She wouldn't dare. Instead, she sent a carefully crafted email, subject line. Maybe we could talk? I didn't open it right away. I stared at the notification while I sipped my coffee, the steam rising between us like a silent war. Julian was reading the paper beside me, legs crossed in his linen pants like we were retired and unbothered. I liked mornings with him. They were quiet, solid, real. I finally opened the email. Naomi, I just wanted to say thank you for showing up. Mom would have been happy. I've been thinking a lot about us, and I realized we never truly had closure. Maybe we could meet. I'd like to start over. Love, Alyssa. Love. She still had the nerve to sign off with that. I closed the email. Deleted it. No response. Closure didn't come from sitting down with someone who cracked your bones open and then cried about their hangnail. I had made peace with the past on my own. I didn't need her version of it. But I underestimated Alyssa's appetite for attention. Or desperation. The second message came a few days later. This time through Jade, my best friend. We were having lunch, catching up on gossip, and venting about a client who thought branding meant slapping a logo on everything. Jade stirred her drink, leaned across the table, and said, So, I ran into your sister. I paused mid-bite. Where? Some launch party. She was glued to the bar like a barnacle. Looked good, but off, you know? Like she was trying too hard. She always tries too hard. She asked about you. Of course she did. Jade hesitated, then added. She said Daniel's been having problems. Financial stuff. She hinted that he's been stressed. Maybe even cheating. I looked down at my plate. Appetite gone. Not out of sadness. More like confirmation. Like when a rotten smell finally leads you to the spoiled food in the fridge. You didn't want to see it, but now you can throw it out for good. Did you tell her anything? I said you're married. Thriving. Happy. Which you are. I smiled. Good. But even then, something prickled at the edge of my calm. Alyssa never reached out without a motive. She was circling me, and I didn't know yet if it was envy or need. The third message came in person. Julian and I were attending a gala downtown, black tie, sharp lighting, a sea of ambition in floor-length gowns and $1,000 suits. I wore a sleek emerald dress with an open back and high slit. Julian's hand stayed on the small of my back all evening, protective, proud. I didn't see Alyssa walk in. I just felt the air shift, like the temperature dropped a few degrees. She approached us between the speeches, standing just behind a tray of champagne flutes. Her hair was pulled into a severe bun, her lips painted too red for the room. Her eyes locked onto mine, then slid to Julian with something that looked a little too hungry. I didn't expect to see you here, she said. Julian turned before I did. You know her, he asked. She's a weed, I murmured. She shows up where she's not wanted. Alyssa's smile faltered. I came with a friend. Is Daniel the friend, or the cautionary tale? Julian chuckled low under his breath. Naomi. But I didn't look away. I wanted her to see what a real, healthy, unbreakable relationship looked like. "I've been trying to reach you," she said. "I noticed. I think we need to talk." "You think I owe you something," I corrected. "Let me be clear, I don't." She looked at Julian, maybe hoping he'd step in. He didn't. "Please," she whispered. "Can we just get coffee? Just once." "What do you want, Alyssa?" I asked flatly. "An apology from me for not staying broken? Or do you want help now that Daniel's failing?" Her lips pressed together. She didn't deny it. That was the first crack. I stepped closer. "You broke my engagement. You destroyed our family. You smiled while I bled. And now you want sisterhood back because your glass castle is crumbling." "I was scared," she said quickly. "He promised me everything. He said you were too strong, too intimidating. I believed him. But he changed. He's not who I thought." I leaned in, so close she could smell my perfume. Subtle, expensive, nothing like the sugar cloud she used to wear. "No, Alyssa, you're not who you thought. And now you want me to hand you a lifeboat?" Her hands trembled slightly. "I'm pregnant." The words landed between us like a dropped match. I stared at her. "You're what?" "6 weeks," she whispered. "I haven't told anyone but you." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The drama that had once burned me now just made me tired. "You came to me," I said slowly, "because you think I'm soft enough to care. But here's the thing, grief made me harder, not softer." She blinked. Her mascara was too thick, her foundation too pale. "I'm scared, Naomi." "Good." She swallowed hard. "If he leaves, I don't have anything." "Then you'll learn," I said, voice low. "The same way I had to." Julian stepped closer, a quiet cue. We were done here. I brushed past her. She didn't follow. Back at home, I stood in front of the mirror, taking off my earrings. Julian came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm getting there." "She really is pregnant?" "Maybe. Maybe not. It's Alyssa. Who knows?" He kissed my shoulder. "If she's looking for a savior, she picked the wrong woman." "I know." But part of me lay awake that night, thinking. Not about Alyssa. About the child. What kind of life would it have, born into a mess of lies, envy, and debt? Would it grow up hearing stories about the sister who walked away? Would Alyssa twist the narrative until I was the villain? I didn't want to care. But the thoughts sat heavy. A week later, another message. This time, it wasn't Alyssa. It was Daniel. It came through Julian's assistant, an invitation to a private business meeting. Daniel wanted to explore a merger. Julian laughed when he saw it. "He must be desperate," he said. I narrowed my eyes. "You won't say yes, right?" "Not unless you want me to." "I want you to say no." He nodded. "Then it's a no." But then something occurred to me. A dangerous, delicious thought. What if you do say yes? Julian raised an eyebrow. "You want me to meet him?" "Not just meet. Play him. Let him think there's a deal. Let him squirm." Julian smirked. "Revenge, Mrs. Wright?" "Not revenge," I said. "A reminder." He leaned back. "You're terrifying. And I love it." 2 days later, Julian met Daniel in a sleek office tower downtown. I didn't go, but I made sure he wore the silver cufflinks Alyssa had once tried to flirt over. He came back grinning. He asked if I knew you. "What did you say?" "I said you're the best thing that's ever happened to me." I smiled. "And the deal?" "There is no deal. His company's bleeding money. Bad investments. He wants me to float him, then let him take credit for a strategic partnership. He's drowning." "Good." Julian walked over, took my face in his hands. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. I thought for a moment. Then I said, "Nothing. Let him sink. Quietly. The world doesn't need to know. But he will. Every time he sees my name. Every time he hears yours." Julian kissed me then, slow and full of promise. As the sun set outside our windows, I sat back in the silence, finally understanding the thing Alyssa never would. True power doesn't scream. It whispers. And mine had just begun. Julian brought home champagne that night. Not to celebrate Daniel's collapse. That wasn't our style. No, it was quieter than that. It was the kind of celebration that came from surviving long enough to finally breathe without choking on the past. We clinked glasses on the balcony. He leaned on the railing, the skyline reflecting in his eyes. I watched him, grateful. "I don't think he'll try again," Julian said. "He won't," I answered. "He doesn't have the ego for a second rejection." He nodded. "And your sister?" A gust of wind tugged at my robe. I didn't answer immediately. Alyssa hadn't reached out again. No texts, no emails. Silence. Which, for her, was unnatural. "She's waiting for something," I said. "She always does. She'll make a move when she thinks I've let my guard down." Julian tilted his head. "What are you going to do when she does?" I looked at him, raised my glass. "Finish it." The next time I saw her, she wasn't dressed for a fight. She showed up at my office. I didn't recognize her at first. Hair in a low knot, oversized coat, no makeup. She looked small. Not fragile exactly. Just dimmed. My assistant buzzed me. "There's a woman here who says she's your sister." I paused. "Send her in." Alyssa stepped inside like she wasn't sure if the floor would hold her weight. I sat behind my desk, posture straight, fingers steepled. She didn't sit until I gestured to the chair across from me. Even then, she perched on the edge, hands clasped like a prayer. I waited. She broke first. "I left him," she said. I kept my face blank. "Daniel," she added, like I might have forgotten. "I left him. And," her lips trembled, "he's been cheating. For months. With someone 22. Her name's Rena. I found pictures. Messages. I confronted him, and he told me it was my fault. That I'd changed. That I wasn't the girl he fell in love with." I stared at her. "You're not." She flinched. "I'm pregnant," she said again, softer this time. "Still. And what do you want from me, Alyssa?" "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "Help. Advice. I don't have anyone. Whose fault is that?" Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't hand her a tissue. She had to sit with it. "I messed up," she whispered. "I know I did. I ruined everything. But I thought if I could just get you to understand, maybe." I stood. She froze. "I don't hate you," I said. She blinked. "You don't." "No. I don't have the time or energy to carry that weight anymore. But that doesn't mean I forgive you either. Forgiveness is a gift, and you haven't earned it." She nodded slowly, like the words cut her open, but she knew she deserved the wound. "I have a guest room," I said. "1 week. After that, you figure your life out." She looked up, stunned. "I'm not saving you," I clarified. "I'm giving you one final chance not to drown. That's it. 1. Naomi. 1. I repeated. That night, Julian said nothing when he saw her in the guest room. He raised an eyebrow at me and I said, "Temporary." He didn't argue. Alyssa moved through our house like a ghost, quiet and nearly invisible. She cleaned dishes she didn't dirty. She tiptoed through mornings. I caught her once in the nursery. We didn't have children yet, but we had a room prepared, just in case. She stood there touching the corner of a blanket folded over the crib, face unreadable. "I'm not ready for this," she said without turning. "No one ever is. I wish Mom were here. She wouldn't help." Alyssa looked back at me. "You really believe that?" "She wouldn't help you the way you need," I said. "She'd tell you what a disappointment you are in a tone sweet enough to pass as love." Alyssa lowered her head. "I always felt like a shadow beside you." I blinked. "That's not my fault." "I know, but it made me cruel." We stood there in silence for a long time. The next day, she cooked breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, orange juice. She hadn't done that since we were kids. Julian raised an eyebrow but ate. She didn't speak much. Later that week, I took her to a clinic. She needed a scan, and I didn't trust her to go alone. We sat in the waiting room, surrounded by mothers-to-be. I realized, with a strange ache, that I didn't belong there. She came out holding a small black and white print. I didn't ask to see it, but she handed it to me anyway. "It's real," she said. I looked at the blurry form. A flicker of life in grayscale. "I'm keeping it," she said. I nodded. She took a shaky breath. "I want to do better." I finally met her eyes. "Then do." The next day, she packed her things. I didn't ask where she was going. She said she found a studio apartment across town. Cheap, Small, clean. As she stood at the door, suitcase in hand, she said, "Thank you for not slamming the door." "I didn't open it for you," I said. "I opened it for the child." Alyssa's lips wobbled. "I'll send you updates. If you want them. I'll think about it." She left. Julian found me on the balcony later, glass of wine in hand. "She's gone?" he asked. "For now." He put his arms around me. "You did the right thing," he said. "I did the hard thing," I corrected. We stood there, quiet, the city breathing below us. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Alyssa didn't message me. She didn't call. But I saw her name in an email chain from a nonprofit for single mothers. Apparently she'd applied for their training program. I didn't interfere. Just watched. Until one day I got a call. Not from her. From a lawyer. Daniel had filed a defamation suit against me. "Excuse me," I said on the phone. "He claims you interfered with a business deal. That your husband tanked an opportunity out of personal spite and damaged his reputation." I laughed. Laughed so hard I had to sit down. The lawyer was calm. "We believe it's a desperation tactic. He's hemorrhaging money. But I had to inform you." I hung up and immediately dialed Julian. "He really wants to play dirty," I said. Julian sighed. "He doesn't have a case. But if he wants war, he'll get it." "I don't want war." "You want justice." I thought of the email from Alyssa, the sonogram, the worn-out look on her face when she left. "No," I said. "I want peace. But I'll burn the battlefield if I have to." I called Alyssa that night. She answered on the 3rd ring, voice cautious. "Daniel's suing me," I said. She gasped. "What? Why?" I told her. She was quiet, then said, "I'll talk to him." "No. You'll stay away from him." "Naomi." "Pick a side, Alyssa. And mean it this time." Another pause. Then, "I'm on yours." I swear. She did talk to him. I know because a week later the suit was dropped without explanation. His publicist released a statement about miscommunication and respecting boundaries. Julian raised a brow at the news. She must have said something he didn't like. Or something he's afraid of being exposed. Alyssa didn't gloat. She didn't even reach out. She just disappeared back into her quiet little apartment, her new life. For once, she wasn't the center of anything. And for once, I didn't feel the need to be either. We were women rebuilding from wreckage. One by choice, one by force. But maybe, just maybe, the story wasn't about who stole from whom anymore. Maybe it was about who finally learned to stop needing what was never real. If you were hooked by Naomi's journey from betrayal to power, hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What would you have done in her place? Don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you don't miss Chapter 5. Things are only getting more intense. And if you think karma hit just right, share this with a friend who loves a good revenge story. Thanks for watching. And remember, some stories aren't just told, they're survived.